the the last thing is I'll just bring up here, and I think this will catch everybody's attention. This is a letter that is I just pulled off the Citizens Trade website, and it is by Catherine Paul, who is Director of Development and Communications at the Organic Consumers Association, and it's a longer letter, and you can I'll pass it around, but anyway, you can find it on the website. It basically says, if you think the U.S. government is doing a subpar job of keeping your food safe, brace yourselves. You could soon be eating imported seafood, beef, or chicken products that do not meet even basic U.S. food safety standards. Under 2 new trade agreements currently in negotiation, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, FDA, would be powerless to shut down imports of unsafe food or food ingredients. And this has been a really big issue recently by the dairy farmers of New England, because the Chinese, for example, are now feeding their cattle with hormones and then adulterating the milk and then marketing it across Asia. And it hasn't come into this country yet, but under the TPP, it could potentially come in. It says, designed to grease the wheels of world commerce, the TPP and the TTIP would force the U.S. and other participating countries to harmonize food safety standards. That means that all countries that sign on to the agreement would be required to abide by the lowest common denominator standards of all the participating governments. So, for instance, say Vietnam allows higher residues of veterinary antibiotics in seafood than the U.S. allows. And Vietnam and the U.S. both sign on to the TPP. As a trade partner, the U.S. would be forced to lower its standards to allow for imports of seafood from Vietnam, or face a lawsuit by the seafood exporter for depriving the company of future sales of the products in the U.S. Exactly what has happened in the past. And it says the U.S. has already had a taste of this type of policy under NAFTA. And it goes on to mention banning the live animals and the hundreds of millions that it cost the U.S. to defend against that in court, and that Mexico was not so fortunate with regards to the issue of the high fructose corn syrup. And Mexico lost all 3 cases and was forced to pay a total of $169.18 million to the 3 firms. So, and the other thing, when it comes to GMOs, there's a concern here, obviously, about the state reserving the right to regulate GMOs, just like it reserves the right to regulate herbicides. Basically, no local county or other body of government can restrict the use of herbicides in the state. In the issue of GMOs, if the U.S. were to sign on to this as a lowest common denominator, basically no country that signed on would be able to ban GMOs, which would be a good deal for the wheat farmers, because then they wouldn't have to worry. They could, create GMO wheat all that they wanted, and wouldn't have to worry about Japan or other former British colonies threatening to cut off supplies.